The American Revolution. Motivation for colonization. Early European settlers had many motives for coming to North America. The newcomers were looking to expand trade, gain wealth, or seek religion freedom. Settlers from Spain chose the land around Florida, the Dutch, and the Swedes were drawn to the mid-Atlantic region for their Burgundy trade, and the Pilgrims from Britain settled New England. The 13 colonies. The New England colonies included Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and New Hampshire. The middle colonies included Delaware, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and New York. The southern colonies included Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. The New England colony's landscape was difficult to farm because of its mountainous landscape and rocky soil, and was the coldest of the three regions, and mostly Puritans dominated. The middle colony's landscape included a mix of southern and northern features and had good farmland. Natural resources in this region included fur, coal, iron ore, and farming land. This region included a variety of religious beliefs such as Judaism, Lutheranism, Catholic, and Quaker. This southern colony's landscape included forests, coastal plains, and hilly terrain. This region focus was agriculture and farming, to grow large plantations of cotton, tobacco, sugar cane, and rice. This region included a variety of religions such as Anglican and Baptist. The Navigation Acts. Acts of Parliament intended to promote the self-sufficiency of the British Empire by restricting colonial trade to England and decreasing dependence on foreign imported goods. Navigation Acts of 1651 required all trade between England and the colonies to carry in English or colonial vessels, resulting in the Anglo-Dutch War in 1652. The 7 Years' War lasted from 1756 to 1763, formed a chapter in the Puritan struggle between Britain and France called the Second Hundred-Year War, brought conflict with the claims of British colonies, especially Virginia. Although the British won the war with the French, the British still faced pressuring colonial problems that the Treaty of Paris only aggravated. King George III. King George III was the third Hanoverian king of the Great Britain. During his reign, Britain lost its American colonies but emerged as a leading power in Europe. He suffered from recurring fits of madness. Proclamation of 1763. King George III issued a proclamation that forbade colonial settlements west of the
Appalachian
Mountains. Angered the colonists because it prohibited colonial settlement west of the
Appalachian
mountain range. The Sugar Act, a revenue-raising act passed by the British Parliament in April 1764. It reduced the rate of tax on molasses from 6 pence to 3 pence per gallon. It angered the colonists because they had to pay a tax for every pound of sugar. The Stamp Act. In 1765, the British Parliament enacted the Stamp Act as a means of raising colonial tax revenues to help defray the costs of the French and Indian War in North America. The Sons of Liberty, an organization of American colonists that was created in the 13 American colonies. The secret society was formed to protect the rights of the colonists and to fight taxation by the British government. The Boston Massacre. The Boston Massacre was a street fight that occurred on March 5th, 1770, between a patriot mob throwing snowballs, stones, and a squad of British soldiers. The Tea Act. The Tea Act was the final straw in the series of unpopular policies and taxes imposed by Britain on their American colonies. The policies ignited a powder keg in opposition and resentment among American colonists and was the catalyst of the Boston Tea Party. The Boston Tea Party. The Boston Tea Party was a political protest by the Sons of Liberty in Boston on December 16, 1773. Destroyed an entire shipment of Texans by the East Indian Company. Ships were boarded and chests of tea were thrown into the Boston Harbor. This resulted in the American Revolution. Common Sense by Thomas Paine. Wrote it for the American independence. Thomas Paine publishes his pamphlet Common Sense, setting forth his arguments in favor of American independence. Thomas Paine, the author of two highly influential pamphlets, The American Crisis and Common Sense. John Locke, an English philosopher and physician, writing influenced the American revolutionaries. Thomas Jefferson, the author of the Declaration of Independence. Declaration of Independence. Authors: Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, Roger Sherman, John Adams, and Robert R. Living. The Declaration of Independence announced that the 13 American colonies were then at war with Great Britain and regarded themselves as the 13 newly independent sovereigns, and no longer a part of the British Empire. It was not a declaration of war, but America knew that Britain would immediately declare war. Part 1, Preamble. Part 2, the Statement of Human Rights. Part 3, Charges against Human Rights. Part 4, Charges against the King and Parliament. Part 5, the Statement of Separation and Signatures. The Revolutionary War. Britain's military is the best in the world. Soldiers were well equipped, disciplined, paid, and fed. British Navy dominated the seas. Funds were much more easily raised by the Empire than the Continental Congress. Americans, desired to win, fighting for their own cause, had a militant with fighting styles of hiding behind rocks and trees, knew the land, shortcuts, and problem areas. George Washington led the Continental Army, and General William Howe led the British. Loyalists were the American colonists who remained loyal to the British Crown. Lasted from 1765 to 1783. United States won. Was a political upheld. The 13 American colonies rejected the British monarchy and the aristocracy, overthrew the authority in Great Britain, and founded the United States of America. The Treaty of Paris, signed in Paris by representatives of King George III, ended the Revolutionary War. Articles of Confederation served as a written document that established the foundations of the national government of the United States after declared independence from Great Britain, left the central government weak since the states maintained a majority of power. Constitution addressed the problems of the weak central government that existed under the Articles of Confederation. Many of the responsibilities of foreign affairs fell under the authorities of an exclusive branch, although the important powers remained the responsibility of the legislature. The election of Washington. In 1789, 69 members of Congress casted their ballots to elect George Washington. As a former leader of the Continental Army and the chairman of the Continental Congress, Washington possessed the necessary credentials for presidency.